Hi, boys and girls. This is Ms. Kathy. I'm so happy you've joined me today for another story just for you. Abram Follows God. After God confused the language of people at the Tower of Babel, the people scattered to smaller towns and cities. One of those cities was called Ur. The people of Ur, already confused by Satan, worshipped many different gods. But one man, Abram, and his family worshipped the one true God, and God had a special plan for them. God spoke to Abram, "I want you to leave this city and go to a land that I will lead you to." Abram knew God's voice, but he didn't know where they were going. But his whole family believed in God, so they packed up and moved with him. His wife Sarai, his father Terah, his brother Tahor, his nephew Lot, and all the family's servants. They packed all of their things on a long line of camels and headed across the desert. Their sheep and goats were herded along behind. They traveled for many days until they reached the city of Haran. Abram's family settled in Haran for a long time. After Abram's father Terah died, God spoke to Abram again. "Leave this city," God said, "and your father's family, and go to a place I will show you. There I will make your children into a mighty nation, and you will be famous across the world, and everyone in the world will be blessed because of you." So Abram left Haran and all of his relatives. Only his wife Sarai and his nephew Lot left with him. They packed up all that they owned and traveled to the place God showed Abram, the land of Canaan. When they arrived at a place called Shechem, God said, "I will give all of this land to your children and their children." Abram was a little surprised to hear this because he was 75 years old, and he and Sarai didn't have any children. But he had faith in God, and he thought, maybe now God plans to give us children. The Canaanites who lived in the land worshipped many gods, so Abram built an altar at Shechem to teach them about the true God. After that, the family traveled to a place where the flocks could graze near Bethel. Abram built another altar there. Everywhere they traveled in Canaan, Abram built an altar and praised God. Later, a famine came to Canaan, a time when no rain fell, so no food could grow. Abram and his family traveled to Egypt and stayed there for a time. When they traveled back to Canaan, both Abram and Lot had more gold, more silver, and more flocks of cattle and sheep. Before long, the shepherds who watched Lot's flocks began to argue with the shepherds who watched Abram's flocks. "This pasture of grass is for our cattle," one would say. "Keep yours away." Or, "This well only has enough water for our sheep," another would say. "Stay back." Finally, Abram met with Lot at the top of a small mountain to discuss it. "There's no need for our people to fight," Abram said. "There is plenty of room for us to spread out. Why don't you take your flocks and your people in one direction, and I will take mine in another?" From where they stood on the mountain, they could see a long way. On one side was the beautiful green valley of the Jordan River and the city of Sodom. On the other side were brown and green hills and deserts. Even though Abram was older and had taken care of Lot for most of his life, he let Lot choose first. Lot looked at the soft green land near the river and the big city. Then he looked at the hills and deserts. It was easy to see which was a nicer place to live. "I'll take the river valley," he said. So Abram moved his tents and his family and his flocks away from the green valley to the hills, and there God spoke to him again. "Look north," God said. "Look south. Look east and west. I'm going to give all the land that you can see to your children. And your family will be so big it will be just as easy to count all the pieces of dust in the world as it will be to count your family." And even though Abram still didn't have any children, he believed God. He had faith in the God who had become his friend.
The story you have heard today is from the Shoebox Kids Bible Stories, written by Jerry D. Thomas and used with permission from the Pacific Press Publishing Association. If you're interested in any other books published by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, please visit AdventistBookCenter.com or call 1-800-765-6955.
This podcast is a production of the Carolina Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.